Coming to you live from the desolate island of Rockall, made famous by the shipping forecast, it's this week's Apocalypse. I'm your co-host, Kevin Lenihan. With me, as always, is John Ferris. John, mermaids. Not all they're cracked up to be, it turns out.
I love that I love that you already sound defeated.
I know. Mermaids in fiction. It's not a great sort of vein to tap into. Unfortunately. But we have to.
Yeah.
We are forced to. We are here on Rockall, the place that people only know about from it being mentioned on the shipping forecast. If you're the kind of lunatic that listens to the shipping forecast,
which you clearly are,
like I remember doing when I was younger, going, "What is this? What is this strange transmission that sounds like it's from beyond space?" About like Rockall 3 becoming good. You know, what does that mean?
Yep.
What does it mean? And he just, oh my god! And I guess it was extremely useful and great for sailors,
for
fishermen,
for very specific people.
Yeah, for very specific people in very specific industries.
People who might hallucinate and see mermaids.
Indeed, exactly. Yeah, which is probably the only reason people think there are mermaids. But yeah, because I used to listen to it. I think I used to listen to it in the same way that people came to listen to like Soviet number stations. You know, that was a thing for a while where people like listen to recordings of number stations and would like be picking up the weird Cold War number stations that were still going and be like, I used to listen, whenever I was a kid, I used to listen to the shipping forecast with the same sort of fervor of, what is this?
You were broken from an early age then.
Indeed. I mean, and I did understand sort of basically what it was supposed to communicate, but I never really nailed it down. It was always just like, becoming good? What kind of... That's not science. Like, I watched the weather forecast and they're talking about pressure zones and stuff like that. The shipping forecast is 3, becoming good.
It's more like those movies with spies in them that they say like random bullshit. The fox crawled out at night.
Exactly, that's the
but only
forecast.
Under the veil of the moon.
Ooh. Yes, John. So we're surrounded by these terrible sea women. Mm-hmm. Yeah, specifically mermaids. Not merfolk. I guess we could just sort of generally open the scope to merfolk if we like. But unfortunately, the 3 movies that we have here deal specifically with mermaids.
Yep.
Again, it's not a rich vein.
A lot of mermaid vaginas.
There are.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately so, yes. I feel like that's what's ahead of us. Yeah. So, John, we have here from 2015, directed by Agnieszka Smoczynska, The Lure.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to just read the log line for The Lure, in Warsaw, or Warszawa, more properly, a pair of mermaid sisters are adopted into a cabaret. While one seeks love with humans, the other hungers to dine on the human population of the city.
Sounds great.
It does, doesn't it? Does that sound really good?
That sounds like a good wee horror setup, and
indeed,
that could be interesting.
Indeed. Then from 2017, directed by Lisa Brühlmann, we have Blew My Mind. And that's blue as in the color blue.
Yeah. This already wins worst title.
It does, unfortunately. So the logline for that: an outwardly normal teenage girl faces overwhelming body transformations that put the very nature of her existence into question. Yeah, also sounds very good. Yeah, it does. And then from 2019, we have, directed by one Jeffrey Grellman, we have Mermaid Down.
Sequel to Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, which might also be in contention for worst title, really, if I was being honest.
Yeah.
So the logline for Mermaid Down: a mermaid is ripped from the Pacific, her tail is chopped off, and she is thrown into a mental home, which is not the proper term for that,
no.
Where no one believes she is a mermaid.
It's a funny farm, isn't it?
That's Yes, John, it's the funny farm. So, John, put on your film critic hat, get professional and serious.
Oh God, that'd be first.
Okay. Strap on your scuba gear and your special scuba movie watching goggles, and we will go down to the depths and watch these movies.
Yay.
Okay, John. So, The Lure, directed by Agnieszka. I believe it is Smoczynska, I believe is how her name is pronounced. I apologize if I am pronouncing that incorrectly. We are known for pronouncing people's names badly, and long may it continue. So, John, The Lure, I'll just read the log line for it again. In Warsaw, a pair of mermaid sisters are adopted into a cabaret. While one seeks love with humans, the other hungers to dine on the human population of the city. Now, John, I saw The Northman last night. And
good for you.
I would love to talk about The Northman and how good The Northman is. But we're not allowed to do that.
No,
because,
there was no mermaids. There was no mermaids. No?
Minimal spoilers for The Northman here, but there were no mermaids
Shit.
in The Northman.
Could you pretend that there was, and then...
It was full of mermaids, John. Let's talk about Alexander Skarsgård for an hour and 20 minutes and then call it quits, will we? No, we won't. We'll talk about The Lure. So, John, what did you think of The Lure?
This was so bad that I had to agree when my wife turned around and said, "Why didn't you just watch Splash?" And I was like, you know what? It would have been better. At least it has John Candy in it.
I know. Oh.
Like, I did not think that would have ever crossed my mind where I'd be like, you know what? Splash or even The Little Mermaid would have been a better call.
Yeah, you know what I'd rather be watching right now? Splash. Or to say it in the Northern Ireland nomenclature, Splash.
Splash.
The movie Splash.
This is
or The Little Mermaid, which is a movie I dislike.
Yeah.
I find the Disney's Little Mermaid incredibly dull and boring for the most part. But John, please vent and tell me what's wrong with this film.
Oh God. It'd probably be quicker to say what's right about it. There's a lot of
what's right with it, John? Tell me what's right with it.
I don't know.
Excited to hear that.
I don't know. There might have been a scene or two that was okay, or I liked the opening credits. The animation and that was kind of fun. I was like, this could be kind of awesome. And then within 5 minutes, you're going, I need to Google this to make sure these aren't underage girls because this is disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of unnecessary nudity with very young looking girls. They are in their 20s, or they were when they made this, but they look very young. Where you're just like, is this a crime to watch this?
Yes, John, it was, but not for those reasons.
Yeah, not for those reasons. But I mean, besides that, you know, the music is at the very best just kind of okay. It actually not even. It doesn't even get okay. It's like more funny at times. Not intentionally, of course.
Yeah.
Like there was one where I thought they were saying tickle juice, and I found that brilliant. So that kept me going for a while.
Like eat you or whatever.
Probably, yeah.
I think that's what the translation was on it.
In lieu of a plot, they just have like meandering scenes that kind of are edited together, and you're kind of going, well, what's the point? Like, there's a guy who looks like Rickety Cricket from Sunny in Philadelphia who like just keeps appearing, and it's like, who the fuck is this? Turns out he's a merman. One of the I think this is the only movie we get to see a merman in.
I think you're correct. Yes, this is the only merman. That's the only merman who's present.
Yeah.
And he's done like he does. You know what? Now that you've mentioned Rickety Cricket, good lord, he's like a slightly more mean looking Rickety Cricket, but he's also like wearing the duster.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah. So, and also they don't like they really think in this movie that smoking makes you cool.
Oh, it also helps you grow a pussy, apparently. Whatever that.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck.
Yeah, whatever that means. That's not John being horrible.
Yeah.
That's a quote from the film. That's something someone says.
Yeah, one of the mermaids honestly thinks that smoking a cigarette will allow her to grow.
Will generate a vagina. Yeah.
Not to mention, I mean, I'm just going to throw out a spoiler warning for this movie because I don't think anyone should fucking see it. It's very difficult to get through, very slow.
Yeah.
There's like tonally, it's all over the place as well. But at one point, and like, see, this is where I'm going to say something. And if someone told me this, I'd go, I'm going to watch that. There's a leg transplant.
There is, and it does sound funny when you say
and it looks fucking hilarious.
It does look really, really, really poor and bad and funny.
And the logistics of it are just out the window. Because like
Baffling.
This is like just what I'm saying about like tonally, it doesn't know what it is. You know, it kind of feels like it wants to be taken seriously, but then it will have ridiculously like almost slapstick type things in it, or it'll have like really ridiculous things, like even the concept of a leg transplant. The way they show it is ridiculous.
Yeah,
and she's lying on a bed of ice, like, you know, like she's a fish, because she is, I suppose.
Yes, they are. They're fish people. Yeah, this movie I found the music to be utter dross, and boring, repetitive. Every song had exactly the same structure, and they followed it would have two lines that repeated like 6 times at the beginning, and then it would go to a waffling, random seeming sort of story time in the song that was just stupid, and then it would repeat the sort of first sort of already repetitive stanza of repeating lines over and over and over again. Then they'd have a smaller waffling stanza and then repeat those lines again. And every time it happened, I was able to predict exactly the structure of all of the music. And
very few of the songs seem to progress the story or tell you information that, you know, the whole point of a musical is like the songs will either tell you a new piece of information or progress the story or do something. Or they'll act as somebody's inner monologue a lot of the time in a musical of like, this is what this person is thinking and how they feel, but they don't even really do that. It's just nonsense. Occasionally, like you have one where the brunette girl called Golden, I think, has like that song about loneliness in which she strips first, of course, because you can't sing if you're not naked, and then it has a hilarious bit where she hits her sister, and as soon as she hits her, like angry dolphin noises happen. So it's like. And this is a theme within this movie which I find absolutely hilarious, that every time they communicate, I'm assuming it's telepathically, there's like weird like dolphin and like whale noises.
It's doing that when they're looking at each other and subtitles come up at the bottom. And, it's so bad. Oh my god, it's so
cheesy and so like, and that would have worked if the rest of the movie was lighthearted enough to pull that off, but it then tries to go for this like dark thing. You know, you have again the same character Golden trying to eat someone in a car, and it's badly shot. It looks fake and awkward.
The whole movie looks like it was shot in someone's back room.
Yeah, like
the lighting's fucking atrocious, and like the camera's so static almost all the time. And the special effects are like, sometimes the tail looks all right in its construction, but the way they do the transformation is so like, to me, it's the equivalent of like a stage magician, right? And he's on the stage and he has like a vase or something, and he's like, I'm gonna turn this vase into a woman.
Yeah.
And he does the old like, I'm gonna put the blanket over the vase, and then it's as if he says to the audience, okay, right, everybody turn around. No, everybody turn around and look away.
Yep.
And then while everyone's turned around and look away, he awkwardly shuffles a woman onto the stage. And then it's like, right, you can turn around now. And everyone turns around and goes, oh my god, wow, he turned it into That's what it feels like when they do the transformations. It's so obvious that that's what's happening. There is zero movie magic at all. It's so clarty and clumsy and just like, and the trailer for this movie made it seem like it was going to be like Baz Luhrmann-esque.
Yeah.
Of like bombastic and like out there and stuff.
Yeah.
And it absolutely and completely isn't. It sort of tries to be.
Yeah.
But it's so muted and drab and dull that it's just dull. You know, Baz Luhrmann has this fucking style of like frenetic cameras and movement and, you know, say what you want about his films. I think he's got a great eye.
Yeah.
You know, he can make a film look so good. This film was just dull and boring and lifeless.
Yeah. As you say, yeah, like that promo does make it feel like it's going to be that, like at the very least, the energy would carry the movie, and it would have been a glorious, quick experience. But this is one of these ones that you will be sitting there going, "Why the fuck is this still going?" And, and just because like we don't care about spoilers of this movie, so like that like near the end when one of them, because this is based on the Little Mermaid story by what do you call him?
Hans Christian Andersen.
Yes, Hans Christian.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, you know, she turns into sea foam. In this, she turns into like furry liquid
Shaving
bubbles.
foam?
And it's like he's just covered in, and it's fucking terrible looking.
It's so bad.
It's
so bad.
hilarious.
Yeah, and the way that comes up as a point of information is so clunky.
Yeah.
It's so awkward the way they shoehorn that, telling you that that's what's going to happen into the story is so bad. And characters' motivations don't make sense. No. Their behavior doesn't make sense. The special effects.
At one point, the father figure just gets up and starts dancing before the news.
Yeah,
and like,
what the fuck
you're
is
going,
that all
what's going on with this? And then he just stops and the scene carries on. You're like, right, great. I'd really know his character motivation now.
Yeah, so you wonder, like, because on paper you hear all these things and you think, oh, this sounds great.
Yeah.
Then you watch it and it's so dull. Mm-hmm. Like, it on paper, this could be great.
Yeah.
And it just isn't. There's not, like, I had to check again, like, I thought it was like, oh, this must be nearly over, and it was only like 35 minutes in, and I was like, I have a whole hour of this movie left to sit through.
It's terrible.
There is twice as much of this movie left as I've already watched, and it already feels like it's gone on too long.
Yeah.
It was so dull. It was, and the reviews for it are just such nonsense.
Yeah.
If you look at the reviews for this movie, it's baffling. I'm like, did these people watch this film, or did they watch the trailer and review that?
Yeah.
Is what it felt like to me. It felt like they reviewed the trailer, or they wanted the movie to be making some kind of point, like it was about feminism or something. I tell you now, this movie is not about, it does not seem to me to be about feminism, and if it is, it's not doing a very good job of communicating that.
No, it seems more like why does it have to focus? It focuses a lot early on mermaid vaginas and their location and the whole point of them, and you have an old man sticking his fingers into them. You know, that's early on, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, you know. I mean, I suppose if that's your thing, then yes, you will enjoy this. You could, you can pause it or whatever, do whatever you want.
Jesus Christ!
But I don't know. It's not my particular fetish, put it that way.
No, it's not. It's definitely someone's, because everything is.
Yeah, and they even mention like that they smell like, this is how the owner of the club finds them in that back room, is they smell like fish. So you have to remember that the whole way through this movie, they smell like fucking fish.
They are reeking.
They are rancid.
Yeah, they're stinking the whole place out, because he goes from like the fucking dance floor all the way through the club sniffing, like, what's that smell, all the way through all this winding corridors in the back room, all the way through a changing room, and then into the room where they're at, and you're like, they must smell like 3-day corpses. They must be beyond humming. What the fuck? Yeah, but then that doesn't get addressed at all.
No.
They make a big deal about it at the beginning, and then that's just, oh no, I guess they don't smell anymore?
Yep.
Or just everyone get used to it. I'm going to say everybody get used to it.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
no, it's not worth your time. Really isn't.
No, it is not. No, it was dull. It was boring. The musical segments were even more boring than the rest of the movie. That it got more dull when they were doing the music. Because it was like the same lines over and over again, and it was just the same. It was just
or complete nonsense. There was that song with the cop lady who shows up and then disappears like that. Or was she killed? I can't even remember. But, but it's all sorts of nonsense. Like it is. I wish I could remember some of the stuff they were saying. I meant to write it down, but it is absolute, just out and out like it just doesn't make any sense.
No, it's bad. It's bad, and you shouldn't watch it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say about this movie. It is bad, and you should not watch it. 80% Rotten Tomatoes, my hole. Well, we've got some oil tankers going by and some little tugboats and stuff like that. They seem to be ignoring us, or at least, I don't know. Do you think they just can't see us?
Maybe they know about the mermaids. Maybe they've watched The Lure and they know about mermaids and went, fuck, we're giving them a wide berth.
They just didn't want to get involved with that shit. They're like, oh, we might end up with one, and then, before you know it, it's boring, overly long songs and just the worst storytelling, and the lightings in your lives will suddenly get really poor. And,
the lighting in my life.
Indeed, the lighting in my life, John.
Oh.
The lighting in my life. So I don't want to talk about The Lure anymore, John.
No.
I would like to talk about Blew My Mind, so I'm going to give the wee log line for this one. Directed by Lisa Brühlmann from 2017. I believe it's a Swiss movie.
Yes, yeah.
The last movie was a Polish movie, I believe. This hails from the land of neutrality and also chocolates. So, an outwardly normal teenage girl faces overwhelming body transformations that put the very nature of her existence into question. Ooh. Yeah, sounds intriguing, doesn't it, John?
Sounds
Was
very
it
familiar to something we've watched before.
Doesn't
talked
it?
at length about.
There are some similarities, let's say parallels, between this film and Ginger Snaps that we did in episode 2.
Yep.
Which was a very good movie. So, John, what did you think of, therefore, Blue, as in the colour blue, Blew My Mind?
I thought it was quite good.
It's way better than its title would have you believe.
Yeah. Like, terrible title. What an awful title. I would not have watched this movie if it wasn't for this category, and I think this was even like one of the last ones we kind of found.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, it's actually, it doesn't even, it's one of those ones where it's a good movie and the mermaid stuff is almost like tacked on to it as well.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's about this young teenage girl kind of obviously going through puberty quite late as well, and getting, like, falling in with a bad crowd and just kind of having a lot of emotional problems. And I was going to say that, like, one of the negatives for me is the I think the parents could have been fleshed out a bit more, but part of me thinks
in it.
part of me thinks maybe that was intentional, because to her, to the character, the main character, who's played fantastically well by a young actress, Luna Wedler. Like, I think the performances in this are great as well, but you know, for her character, the parents are almost non-existent anyway. So I'm wondering, is that something that was done intentionally, or am I being a bit...
it's like they're never around, and then therefore they're never in the film, really. But then they act like it's somehow her fault that they're neglecting her. Yeah. But
they do a really good job of making you care for this character and get to know her, and then even, you know, there are times where she has like outbursts and stuff that might seem out of character, but then she's a fucking teenager. This happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's on this kind of like self-destructive path that. Sorry. She's on the self-destructive path that you're genuinely concerned. Like, there's times when she's going out drinking with her friends, and you're like, "Fuck, don't do it. Don't please stop, Maya. Just like talk to someone." And she's worried about her body image and stuff, and obviously the mermaid thing is happening at the same time. So she's her feet are becoming webbed, and there's like real minor like the body horror stuff in this is very like David Cronenberg would scoff at it.
He would. There are some little bits where I was doing the old teeth dryer.
When she tries to cut her webbed feet.
Yeah, that was just. I was like, no, don't. And it was unpleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not enjoy that at all.
And like, it's almost because it's almost. It's more realistic in that way. It's very subtle to begin with until it isn't. But that does affect you more because that it looks real and it feels like it could be real. And when she's cutting it, it's like, oh no, that's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah, but, you shouldn't be doing that. But I guess it's too late now. You have to do them all, I suppose. Yeah. This film, I really liked this film. I thought this film was very, very good. It reminded me a lot of. I know this is something you haven't. I don't think you've watched. You haven't watched Euphoria yet, have you?
No.
TV show.
Seen it yet.
No. There was some things about it that put me in mind of that. Yeah. Just with the way, because it's kind of about someone around that age.
Yeah.
Experiencing some. I'm not yet still no longer a child, not yet an adult problems.
Yes.
But also like Euphoria is mainly about like drug addiction. On top of everything else, that's the main character. That's what she's dealing with. But there's other characters who are very much dealing with stuff, sort of like the main character in this is dealing with. Yeah. Except they're not turning into mermaids.
That we know
of. Course,
of.
That we know of. Yeah, but thematically there was some similarities. But I thought this film was really well put together. I thought it was really well shot. It looked really nice, especially compared to The Lure. It was a fucking masterpiece.
Well, I'm early kind of spoiler warning for our own podcast, I suppose. But and Mermaid Down, this movie is shot a lot better than the other movies.
Yes. This seemed like a real film. The other two to me did not really seem like real movies. So this was great. I really liked. I thought the writing in it was brilliant. As you're saying, the way they deal with the characterization is really good. Even the main character, the other characters especially, because they do that great thing where they introduce some characters and you find you don't like them, and then as you get to know them a bit better, you maybe start to think like, maybe they're not such a dick.
I think maybe in particular, right. The main one, I suppose you're pointing at is Gianna, her who becomes her best friend essentially.
Yes.
But at the start, it's a very like Mean Girls type.
It's antagonistic as fuck. It's like she starts out as her bully, and then becomes her bestest buddy. And it does happen fairly naturally.
Yeah, the growth in that character is brilliant. Well, like when you start to see her like genuinely concerned about Maya's well-being, when she realizes how destructive Maya's becoming, and she has her own shit to deal with as well. Like her father, all the adults in this are basically absent. They're her father's very. Like she's clearly from a rich background, but he's just there in body only. And I like even when they go to the apartment, he's there. And he's like, "Oh, who's this? She's new," and she like gives off to her dad that he's perving on her basically, and he's like, "No, I'm just asking." It's like he gets really defensive. It's like shit, you know. But that shit, like even wee moments like that show you what type of relationship. Like she has no respect for him. She just basically berates him in front of her friends, and just as you say, like I think the writing in this is very well done, and those two characters in particular, Maya and Gianna, are portrayed very well, and they have the strongest writing. As I mentioned, the adults kind of seem wishy-washy, or like absentee in it, but and
Like,
the other characters are
though. Yeah.
the other characters are that ancillary that don't get as fleshed out. So it
Yeah.
really relies on these two characters, and they do it brilliantly.
Yeah, they're great. I think, yeah, because the film seems to be basically sort of about somebody going through puberty without the help and support of a parent explaining to them what's happening to them.
Yeah.
That seems to be what it's about, because she has this other thing that's going on that she's like, okay, my parents have to know about this, but they're not addressing it to me.
Yeah.
You know, and there's this whole thing about, like, where she's, like, discovering, like, questioning her parentage and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, well, you have to know, right? But then she is never able to sit down and have, her mum is so, like, doesn't want to talk straight with her.
Yeah.
Ever. Her mother, like, avoids having a proper conversation with her constantly, and all the, again, as you say, all the other adults are barely there. Her dad seems like he wants to help, but he never really pushes and never gets in there. But I think we need to address the biggest atrocity in this film, which is the way they eat ketchup. The way they have the squeezy bottle of ketchup that they pass around and shoot it directly into their faces. They just drink it from the bottle like
teenagers.
Animals. No, that's wild. They do it so casually. I'm just like, is this a common thing that just passed me by? Did you do this, John?
No, I don't really even like ketchup. You were kind of obsessed with ketchup. When
I think it's a great condiment.
Yeah,
but
did you not make ketchup sandwiches?
Oh yeah, whenever I was younger, I definitely did that.
So you're like you're just like one step above them. Then. It's
yeah,
not like directly into your face. It's onto a bit of bread and then into your face.
Yes, John, that's called civilization.
Yes, you keep telling yourself that.
That's where the line is, I've decided.
So tell me this, if they filled a cup with ketchup and drank it from the cup, would that be okay?
No, even that, John, I think is too far. I mean, I would balk at people who used to tell me that whenever they had their Sunday dinner or whatever, they would have like all their stuff, and then they would have a mug of gravy on the side that they would drink while eating their dinner.
Why do you not just pour it over the... What?
That was my question too, John, but it's too late. It's a thing. It's just a thing some people do, I guess. Okay. I mean, it's like Bovril. Is that sort of what Bovril is?
Yeah, I suppose.
Is like weirdo meat drink that you're supposed to have with your meat. Anyway, John, we have gotten wildly off the topic of mermaids here, which we usually do when it's the bad movie, but this is actually the good movie.
Do you think mermaids drink Bovril?
I doubt it. I think if there was some kind of like clam derivative, maybe, as opposed to beef derivative, which is what Bovril is, then they might go to town on that. But
I liked all the scenes where Maya eats fish, like she eats her mum's fish, and then there's a scene where in the school they're dissecting a fish as well, and she's told to clean it up, and when everyone leaves, she just like, you see her kind of looking at it like, oh, I really want to eat it, really want to eat it, really want to eat it, and then and it's really disturbing.
Yeah, she fucking tears into that fucking thing. And like, yep. I'm looking at it going, did that actress actually tear into just a fucking raw fish for the sake of this scene? Because it looks like it.
I hope not.
It probably did. They probably did. Actors, you know what they're like, John, when they're committed to their craft.
She was doing a DiCaprio, was she?
She wanted to get that oxter.
Yep.
For eating a bear or whatever he did. Yeah. So this film's really good. It was really nice to see it. Now, unfortunately for me, I did watch this one first.
Yeah, same here.
I made that mistake.
Yep.
It would have been nice to have it in the middle like we have it here with our discussion, but
Yeah, like just to buffer the two.
It would have been
spoiler. The two awful ones.
The two.
They're awful in different ways, though. So that's
they are
good.
awful in spectacularly.
But no, I do
ways.
think this one. You know, like I'm just looking at it on the IMDb page, and it's got like the genres that it's in are drama, fantasy, and horror. There's not much horror, like it is, as we say, like mild body horror stuff. I suppose if you grew a fish, if your legs turned into a giant fin, that would be horrific. But it's not much of a horror. Like you don't go in kind of
it's like
expecting that.
It's like Ginger Snaps with like Ginger Snaps was dealing with similar issues.
Yeah, but
Ginger Snaps did it with a wink and a nod and a bucket of blood. You know, Ginger Snaps was sort of almost wisecracking all the way. Ginger Snaps, how it was funny.
Yeah.
I don't. This is dealing with the same things and using a similar sort of actual physical transformation, monster transformation metaphor, but it's not doing it with the sense of humor that Ginger Snaps had. It's doing it with a very sort of like, no, this is a serious subject.
Yeah.
And we're going to treat it seriously. And that was actually kind of nice that they're doing it like that. And it was, I think the horror is more the empathetic horror of this happening to her and you being like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Imagine what that would be like. And you're like, and no one will tell you what's going on. And you feel like someone's to blame. Yeah, possibly your parents for not telling you that this was going to happen to you.
And she's going through all the other teenage stuff to know, like, because we didn't even touch on the fact that there is like a kind of question mark over their sexual orientation as well, because they get very close in that way. You know, it's not touched on purposely because it's just kind of hinted at that they might be have feelings for each other beyond just friendship and things like that. So she is in a very confused state, and for this mermaid transformation to happen while all this shite's happening is just fucking crazy. I will say I found the tail was a bit too long. Didn't make sense.
It was extremely long.
Extremely long. Like the ones in the lure were stupidly long as well.
Yeah.
But that movie was a trash fire anyway.
That everything in that movie was going wrong, so it just that was one amongst many flaws. Whereas in Blew My Mind was doing a pretty good job of being a good film, so it was a bit more stark when you saw that. But so to me, this film does a really good job of communicating someone in escalating distress who just needs someone to reach out to them, and talk to them. But they don't have anybody really, and so they have to turn to their friends who know fuck all as much as they do, which seems to be it's a theme with like things about teenagers. I think where like they can't look to their parents because their parents won't talk to them about these things, so they look to their peers who know fucking probably less than they do, but act like they know everything. And then it turns out, oh no, this is wrong. But ultimately, I'd say, if I was to recommend any of these three movies, it would easily be this one. Because it's, even in another category, even if it wasn't up against those other two shit fires, this would probably still be a decent recommend. I think.
It's competently made. There's some very nice shots in it. The lighting's good. There's this constant, like, the color blue is always in the scene as well, but it's not like overbearing or like a lot of movies, a lot of like I'm just going to say hacks like we'll do this where like the color is going to be their like one of their themes, and they just like go overboard. But in this, it's subtly enough done that you're like, okay, that's fine.
You're not having a wee dig at Michael Mann there, are you?
I'm always having a sly wee dig at Michael Mann.
Because it did sound like you were describing a couple of Michael Mann movies.
Although I would love to see Michael Mann make a coming of age teenage
for teenage girls,
because he has no idea about women at all.
Yeah, all of his women are not human beings. They're just weird. Yeah, as you said before, John, they're just props. In all of the films, all the Michael Mann movies,
it'd probably be focused on the dad going, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I don't know. She's a strange alien from space or something. I don't know. But that's not this movie. This movie takes a deft, subtle touch to a lot of that stuff. And when it is nasty, it's not gratuitously nasty. You know, the body, as you said, the body horror's muted, but in an appropriate way, and in a way that actually made it feel a bit more real to me, and therefore more effective. So ultimately, this film is, and I know that we usually do this at the end, but this is definitely the best of these films. Well, it's calm seas and languishing now. No boats. No one to save us. If only we brought some emergency flares or whatever. You know, but we didn't do that, John. No, so we have to, like, deal with the mermaids. And that's, you know, an issue. They've been circling like sharks now for over an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, see, the problem is, John, I can't swim.
Oh, that's going to be an issue.
So I can't even get in there. If you could sort of drag me along and use me as some kind of weapon, you know, I'm pretty wily. If you were to, like, hold on to me.
Hold you while you flail at them?
Well, I flail wildly at them. And I don't know, confuse them, maybe.
You are very confusing.
I'm a very confusing guy. You know what else is confusing, John?
Oh.
You know what else was very confusing?
That was a very good segue.
I know.
Normally they're terrible.
You know what was extremely confusing, John? Mermaid down. So I'm going to read the log line to this, and then I'm going to tell you that it's not true. So...
Yep.
Or that it's so... It leaves out a lot of things that it could mention.
Yeah.
So, Mermaid Down from 2019, directed by one Jeffrey Grellman. So, a mermaid is ripped from the Pacific, her tail is chopped off, and she's thrown into a mental home where no one believes she is a mermaid. Now, that is burying the lead in a really deceptive, intentionally deceptive way. Because if you actually wrote what this film is about...
It would be about 3 pages long.
It would be about 3 goddamn pages long, and you'd be like, oh, how is this all the same movie?
Yeah.
And I wonder whether or not it was the same movie, or whether this was like 2 or 3 different scripts that had chunks taken out of them and blended
you know what? You
together.
know how it works. It's like, you know, you've 4 scripts in front of you. None of them are really great on their own, so you just like go, what if I take the ghost from this one, the psycho killer from the slasher guy from this one, I'm just going to call it a funny farm. If they're going to not use the right terms, the funny farm, because see, to be fair,
psychiatric facility,
but it's not. It's someone's house that has. It's like a sorority house because they're meant, like, these women are mental in the way that they tell you that they're crazy, or someone can see ghosts, so that's why she's in there. I don't even know how the other ones are. Crazy, quote unquote crazy.
No, they just act like dicks sometimes. That seems to be their mental
and they have free
disorder.
reign, as we all know. In psychiatric wards, they have free reign to do whatever they want.
Yeah. So this movie is basically it's like they saw Girl Interrupted, and they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
For some reason, they thought that would be a good fit. They wanted to do. I think the elevator pitch for this was probably Girl Interrupted meets Splash.
Yeah.
You know, that was probably
with a dose of Ghost.
Yeah, with a hefty dose of Ghost for some reason. That was probably how they pitched it to whatever studio was fool enough to finance it.
Yeah.
This film is so confusing. So the opening sort of dialogue is just a meandering, overwritten mess of these 2 sailor guys, one of whom just like it feels like they had the friggin' thesaurus out under the table with writing all this guy's lines. He's supposed to be like the old sea captain, but he's just going off on one with all these extremely like unnecessarily long words that feel like, you know, it's almost like it's like an episode of The West Wing, but without the intrigue or the intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way he talks, and then they've comically got the guy next to him being like, "What? I don't understand." Derp, derp, derp. And that's garbage.
Yeah.
And then they go through this whole fucking diatribe of what they're going to do when they catch a mermaid.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do, and you're like, what the fuck? And then there just happens to be this yuppie psychiatrist guy on a boat nearby.
Who's also a psychopath.
Who, spoilers.
Yeah, again, you know what? It's like the lure. I don't give a fuck about spoiling this movie because I feel we're doing something helpful. Anyone who listens to this who might be interested in watching Mermaid Town, just don't.
Yeah, don't watch Mermaid Down. Like, the title is deceptive in that it doesn't bear any resemblance to Black Hawk Down, the 3-hour Ridley Scott epic, or however long fucking Black Hawk Down is. So it bears no resemblance thematically to Black Hawk Down at all. It, again, as we said, it bears more of a resemblance to like a crappy version of Girl Interrupted meets Splash meets sort of shitty Friday the 13th meets Ghost. And it meets Ghost in the just most... I was so confused, John.
Yeah.
I was so confused when there was a genuine, actual ghost that was one of the main characters. It was a ghost. The girls, they made the Girl Interrupted group of people make this joke about one of them. Why don't you go get your imaginary friend to fetch us drugs? Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And then we just see this person wandering around in a corridor near a mop bucket.
Translucent person.
And she's slightly translucent. And I thought, have I missed something? And then it cuts away from her to them talking more crap. And then it cuts back to her still in the corridor, meandering awkwardly around a mop bucket. And I'm wondering what I'm watching and like whether or not this was B-roll footage or footage they didn't mean to put in the film that made it in, that was like something had happened, like they'd filmed it on film and something had gone wrong with the exposure, and that's why there was elements of the background coming through this person. It didn't immediately communicate to me ghost.
Yeah.
It communicated to me
mistakes.
Mistake. And then she's sitting there talking, and I'm like, she is see-through, but she's talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
But then no one was acknowledging her, and eventually I was like, is she imaginary?
Yeah.
And then the mermaid could see her. And then I was like, oh, this movie has a ghost in it? What the fuck?
It just becomes... Yeah, it's just like they tried to fit as much in it as they could, but somehow that would make you almost think, right, well, there's plenty of entertainment there. It's just going to be like constant bombardment of these weird things, and you can at least laugh at it, which is kind of what I was hoping for. But very much like The Lure, this movie is a fucking slog to get through, and the motivations of characters aren't clear or just not there. It's just like they just do stuff for the sake of it. Tries to be funny at times, and fuck me, that's woeful.
It is not funny. It is a drab, humorless mess. The way it's shot is atrocious.
Yeah.
It's like sub kids TV in the 90s level of this set is tiny, so or we decided to film this in an actual house instead of a set, so the camera's way too close to everybody, and like they're not even using a wide angle lens to make it seem bigger.
And it's obviously low budget because even the lighting, you know, they haven't lit the house up properly either, and then outside scenes are grim. Like just whatever's happening, like we just have to roll with it.
Yeah, we're just doing stuff, and we're having different scenes that don't contribute to the story at all, and mermaids are psychic or can see ghosts or something, and then they allude to all this shit about like, but there are mermaids in the population and they don't know they're mermaids. Where did that come from? That comes out of nowhere. And then but it does give us the bit in the film that made me laugh the most.
Yep.
which was right at the end when they ask her, like, are any of us mermaids? And then she just points in this really funny way, and then they part like the sea to see the other girl who sees the ghost going, me?
Yeah.
And you're like, Jesus fucking
And again,
Christ.
like, so badly written in that the audience knows this. Like, you can
Yeah.
put two and two together fairly quickly. They're like, they're the only two that can see the ghost, which seems to be a fairly established, like, mermaid power.
For some reason, mermaids can see and talk to ghosts.
Because why not? But one of my favourite things was when they asked how because she can't speak, but it turns out she can sign language. She can use
She
sign
knows
language.
some kind of weird sign language,
And they're
which
like,
I don't think is a real
how
sign
do you
language.
know how to do sign language? She learned it from pirates. Pirates apparently knew sign language.
Pirates taught her sign language. That is the throwaway line they use to explain why she knows sign language.
They focused on the wrong element for this story. That should have been the story.
That should have been the
bunch of
movie.
pirates teach a mermaid how
A
to use
bunch
sign
of
language.
deaf pirates on the high seas teaching a mermaid sign
Like,
language.
I would watch that movie.
That sounds way better than this disjointed mess. So yeah, it starts out like, oh, a mermaid monster movie almost.
And it kind of starts out like as much because it is low budget, so you kind of have to go in with a few like expectations to know you kind of lower your expectations accordingly. And it kind of started off like, apart from the dialogue and all, I was going, this might be fun actually.
Yeah.
They've caught this mermaid, and then he's like hacking her. He's just like hacking the fin off with an axe.
fire axe.
And he stops like halfway through to get a coffee for no discernible reason.
Yeah, he stops chopping her tail off, goes inside, pours himself a mug of fucking coffee
Manages
or whatever.
to not see the guy hiding below the table that anyone would be able to see him. As soon as you walk in, you'd be like, what the fuck are you doing under my tiny table?
My tiny table that has no room under it to hide. He doesn't see him. He goes out, finishes chopping off the tail, then comes back in and then notices him under the table. Like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, you're like, this might be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as it cuts to Girl Interrupted with ghosts, it's like, oh no, none of these people can deliver a line effectively or with the proper human inflection that a person would use. The dialogue is awful. The way they sort of try to lever in character traits of people is bad. Like, there's a point where, like, I guess the nurse, I guess she is, that is, like, supposed to be this maternal figure for all the Girl Interrupteds. There's a point where she goes out for, they say, oh, secret smoker. But she's not a secret smoker because she decides to smoke right outside the window of the room they're all in while having a panic attack.
Yep.
Like right in their faces. And you're like, what's going on? And then after all that crap, then it just turns into a slasher movie out of nowhere. He has a dog in the basement that he feeds a girl dressed like a superhero to, and then then he does murders on a boat, or he wants to do a murder on a boat, and they're like, oh, he has bodies and he's killed all these people, and you're like, why is this in the film? And then he just starts walking around the place murdering people in the place out of fucking nowhere. He just suddenly decides it's time to do murders. And he's just and then they're like walking around, he's just murdering everybody. And you're like, why is he doing this? Why is this happening? And then it just sort of ends. It just sort of, they sink in a boat and then they all get out.
Headers
and
out.
then it's fine.
The ghost finds her dead body in the wall. For some reason.
There's a body in a wall in the boat for some reason. I don't know why he would hide them there in the bilges. It's very strange. I don't know how the ghost, they try to establish this weird fiction around the ghost that doesn't make any sense. Like that she can touch cabinets. She can't touch things except for cabinets. She can interact with cabinets, but she can walk through walls.
Yep.
Like, what's so magic? And then
I don't know what your problem is. Well, that's
I don't know what my problem is either, John.
fairly
It
well
was
established ghost lore there.
ghost lore of can enter ghosts love cabinets and love touching them, I guess. But they can like the ghost thing. I just don't like.
There's not much more you can say about it. Like, it is just it's almost like, well, what the fuck did you expect? It's a shitty kind of low budget mermaid movie, but what I didn't expect was a slasher movie with a ghost. And what about the bioluminescent hair as well?
Her hair is fucking Christmas lights. She's got LED Christmas lights in her hair that light up when it's a convenient
when she wants
for this.
it to.
Does she want it to?
I don't know.
Is she making that?
I don't know, because there's no like the mermaid doesn't get any characterization beyond I'm gonna die if I don't get back in the ocean
or something.
Kind of thing.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Is she going to die if she doesn't get back in the ocean?
There's something along those lines of like, yeah.
I don't know if that's well established.
There's some I think they say it that some of the mermaids that end up on land and grow legs can like just assimilate into the population, but others don't take to it well, and she's one of those ones.
Yeah,
and then
I guess so.
At some point, she spits ink at the guy, and it's like,
that's just a thing they just do, and then it's never addressed before that, and it isn't relevant.
I thought they were going to go the direction of like mermaids can kind of like almost shapeshift when they need to, like almost like a defensive thing, and like she was actually going to become like an octopus type thing.
Oh.
You know, like the lower half was going to be all octopusy, and she was going to kill him that way. And it's like, see, that would have been a cleverer way to end that. Instead
you were writing a better film in your head.
It's
while
not
the film
difficult.
Was
It's not difficult.
It would not be difficult at all. Yeah, this film was 3 different bad films
atrocious
put together, and they were way less than the sum of their parts. Significantly.
Yeah. It just shows you, like, if you have those 4 scripts, maybe just, tidy one up a bit and make
just
that,
do
or make
one.
make a short movie. It doesn't need to be a feature length movie.
No, but
maybe just don't make any movies, because there's no fucking talent on display here at all.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. It's poorly shot. It's badly lit. Half the film's too dark to see.
Mm-hmm.
The dialogue's terrible. The acting is atrocious. Basically, every element of filmmaking on display here is poor.
Yeah.
If
you had told me this was an Uwe Boll movie, I would have believed you.
I wouldn't be. You know what? It did kind of remind me of that Uwe Boll produced movie that we watched about evil houses that I don't even remember the title of. That was English people playing Americans living in Tuscany. That was supposed to be America. That movie.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that was called. It felt like that. In fact, that's a really great way to sum this movie up. It was like watching Uwe Boll, but without. It was like someone trying to emulate Uwe Boll, which is the worst thing you could say about a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Well, John,
blew my mind.
So it's come to this. Stop it. If we could just come to some kind of conclusion about which of these could possibly be the best of these movies, just so that we can figure out what we learned and how to get off of Rockall and past these mermaids.
I mean, it's going to be tight, isn't it? Like
because we're not allowed to figure out how to solve our problem until we decide which of these was the best movie. You know what, John? I'm going to turn this around.
Ooh.
And I'm going to say, yes, blew my mind. It's the best. I'm going to say, which of these films was the worst movie, though? Which was worse? Was it The Lure or was it Mermaid Down? I'm inclined towards Mermaid Down.
See, I was going to go the opposite, because Mermaid Down was the last one I watched, and it's bad in the sense of a lot of movies like that are. There's loads of movies like that are bad. They're just like these very poorly made movies, but The Lure kind of had like an extra level of creepiness. Like even the like the thought process that went into it was creepy, and the weird. Actually, I had to look it up to see, you know, is the director a pervert kind of thing. And
yeah, it's like one of those like, is this person been convicted of crimes? Yeah,
and I was shocked. It's actually a female director. But because it seemed like almost really, it reminded me of that Zack Snyder train wreck. What do you call that one?
which one, John? Any Zack Snyder movie?
Yeah, all of them. No, the one with the girls in
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. Yeah, where
where it was just like he
really
cast
pervy.
a bunch of underage looking girls to
Yes.
run around in sexy cosplay
yeah.
for like 2 hours. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's absolutely atrocious. It gave me feelings of that, you know, where, as I said, I genuinely looked up the age of these actresses early on because I was like, if this is like, it would be a good enough excuse for me to turn it off and go, no, we're not doing that because
delete it from
fucked
your
up.
just delete it from your memory and your life.
But like it just seems so pointless. I think it pissed me off the most. Where Mermaid Down was like, kind of once, you know, got through the first like 10 minutes and realized, it's one of these ones. As like, I could manage my expectations and just like kind of sit there and go, this is fucking stupid. Yeah,
I guess taken from a sort of conceptual standpoint, The Lure is way more egregious, isn't it? Yeah, because it's, I mean, are they not knowingly underage in the movie, though?
Yep,
Do they not say that they're like 15?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's established as a fact. Yeah.
And it's just like even that unnecessary scene of the old man putting his fingers into the mermaid vagina is like, no, what, please turn this off. Please turn this off now.
Yeah.
And just the incoherence of it, because they're both incoherent in very different ways. Like The Lure, you could probably argue, is the better made in the sense that like not all the scenes look like trash.
Yeah,
it kind of like parts of it seem like it was made by someone who's very adept at making like pop music videos.
Yeah,
like some of the musical parts are done very much like that, but again, it doesn't give any. It doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't give any context to anything else. And as you mentioned when we were talking about it earlier, the songs are tripe. The lyrics in them are repetitive or just out and out madness.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They're meandering crap that adds almost nothing to the narrative.
Yep.
But like Mermaid Down was just it was so poorly put together. It was, but there's so many crappy movies around that are just like Mermaid Down. I guess, you know, there's a lot of just like zero budget. Just we shot this over a weekend with a script that wasn't really finished, but we just went with it anyway because it's what we had, and we just had to get this done, and we had to cast whoever we could get, and we couldn't afford lights.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're kind of like, well, good on them for having a finished product, maybe with Mermaid Down, I suppose.
Like, but, and Mermaid Down, like, there's no, I suppose a point in the Lure's favor is there's no characters get any development in Mermaid Down. There's no, like, the writing is that poor that you can't really attach to any single character. At least in the Lure, I'm not saying that I identified with any of them or anything like that, but there are certain characters that get a bit more, you know, what do you call her? Golden, I think. You do get the sense of like, oh, she's lonely and she's missing her sister and stuff like this. There is some character in there for some of them, but it's still not great. Like, it's still not what I would say, is great characterization.
No, it's not. It's.
I mean, apart from the like father figure when he danced, like I completely got that character then.
he knew exactly what he was all about. Yeah, that.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, maybe The Lure is the worst one. Well, Blew My Mind is obviously the best one, because it was a good film.
Did not expect that. Like, that title
No.
is absolutely shite.
Yeah, like the best title is The Lure.
Yeah.
Like, The Lure is a really good title.
Exactly.
The names of the other two films make you not want to watch them. Which is a problem, because Blew My Mind is a good movie, but like the color blue, I mean, oh man, it's like. And
I was even looking up
like, does this sound better in German maybe? But it seems like it's in English in every version of the movie that I could see. I didn't see any alternate titles for it.
I was about to say the same thing. I was looking up alternate titles, but they all seem to be Blew My Mind, you know.
Yeah.
Apart from the Hungarian one, which it might just translate as Blew My Mind, I don't know. But it just seems very odd that it's called that. But at least it does the thing that movies should do, which is characterize, especially your lead character. You know, does it very well. Where you may not like her at times, but you care for her. Like, you genuinely do care and I mean, the destructive path she goes down is harrowing. At one point, she is in an orgy, or she's about to be in an orgy with 4 men, until her friend comes in and saves her from it. And it's just really crazy, you know. But you know why she's doing this as well. You know her motivations. You know that she's not in the best, you know, place mentally. And yeah, like it is enjoyable. It's not an easy watch at times, definitely not. But at least it has something to say.
Yeah, it has merit. The other two, neither of the other two films have any merit whatsoever.
No, and I mean, as you say, there are people who, I mean, maybe were the wrong people to judge The Lure, you know. But there is that whole thing where a lot of reviewers seem to think that it's this like feminist tale or something. I don't know where that's coming from. But
I think if that was the intention, I feel like they missed the mark by a country mile.
Yeah, and
like really,
to me, the tonal shifts are too extreme. And again, you can always argue, oh, that's intentional. It's like postmodern or something, but I don't think it is. It doesn't help as a viewer. It doesn't like kind of help you stay invested in it, and it just feels weird, and not in that good sense where say like Jodorowsky, you know, we've enjoyed weird, we like weird shit, like you know, if it was just out and out weird, we could accept that.
Yeah, the problem with The Lure is that, like, I was reading the reviews and people were saying, oh my god, it's so this and that, all weird, and I was watching thinking, this is not that weird.
No, it's
actually not that weird. I have seen way more bizarre movies than this. Yeah. And like it felt extremely tame.
Yeah.
To
it's
me
very,
in that
very
regard.
like that's what I mean. Like, it's very safe in a lot of ways, but it tries to present it's like those kind of people that go, I'm so random. I'm so weird. And like, as soon as someone instantly says that, you go, oh, you're the most fucking basic fucker ever, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's pretending to. It's almost like it's putting up the pretense of being a really bizarre, surrealist film. Yeah. When actually it's just dull.
Yeah, you're no fucking David Lynch.
Aye. Yeah, it's none of that. Like it's like compare anything and it would be a good comparison to draw between this and like something like Blue Velvet.
Yes.
Because like you look at like the cabaret scenes in Blue Velvet, they're not necessarily frenetic or crazy, but they are captivatingly bizarre. Yeah. You know? And this film doesn't really have that. It's trying to have that, and I think it really feels at it, and it's just dull. And then also there's the disturbing element of, it seems like they're intentionally trying to get us to be like, look at these underage girls
Yeah.
taking their tops off and acting like fish ladies and talking about sex all the time, and it sucks.
Yeah.
The lure is badly made, but you know, it is what it is. I've seen a million like it before. Whatever. It's a confused mess.
Oh, you
It's
mean
also
Mermaid
not
Down?
good. Mermaid Down, sorry, yes,
Yeah.
not the lure. The lure was the one we were already talking about. Mermaid, I don't think I
No.
can. I would love to have just talked about the Northman for an hour.
Yeah.
I watched it it's so fresh in my head. And I watched it last night.
I'm gonna go see it soon.
Yeah, it's all I can think about with the whole time I'm trying to talk about these films, except for like Blew My Mind was genuinely good, and it was a very good movie. Now, John, now that we've established that The Lure is the worst of these films,
Yeah.
and Blew My Mind is definitely, easily, handily, so obviously the best of these films,
Like I think we should have listened to my wife and just watched Splash.
we should have watched Splash.
God damn it.
We should have
She actually watched it last night, and I was
Oh my
I was
gosh.
kind of like playing Elden Ring at the same time, so I was kind of half watching it. It was like, you know what, just on the fact that John Candy's in it alone
Yeah.
would have elevated. Like he's got a few funny lines and stuff in it, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like the first half it's all right, and then like the rest you're kind of like ugh, whatever. But I love that her first words, the first time that the Daryl Hannah mermaid speaks, she says, "Bloomingdale's," which just typifies
so awful.
80s nonsense. It's like all about
80s consumerist
Yeah.
anti-feminist shite.
But guess what? It's still better than The Lure and Mermaid Down.
Yeah, that's a shame. But not better than Blew My Mind.
No.
But which of these films, John, teaches us the most about mermaids, or gives us the sort of the best sort of clues or stratagems for avoiding, defeating, getting the fuck away from them, or getting by them back to shore?
I mean, I suppose Mermaid Down has the most. I'm gonna do air quotes, but don't really translate too well in podcast. Scientific stuff about mermaids, in the sense that we know her legs grow. Oh, that's another thing about Mermaid Down. His notes, this supposed
The way they
scientist,
flash up on the screen.
but also just the notes themselves are so unscientific, and so like he focuses on the mermaid, like, oh, she's very sad and like things like this. It's like her legs, like she literally has legs growing where there was nothing. You don't think that's noteworthy? You don't think?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't write much. It's all these like not even paragraphs, like a sentence, like going, "Yep, her mental health is deteriorating." It's like, what?
Yeah,
You've
she got chopped
nothing
in
more to
half with
say.
a fire axe. Yeah.
Yeah, she only likes to eat fish.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so we've got that on Mermaid Down side. You know, we've got all the notes that he makes on all those deep notes on her mental health.
Indeed.
We know if you chop their legs off, or chop the fin off, or what would you, the tail? Sorry,
Tail, yes.
they'll grow legs, and so we get a lot of very strong science in this one.
Yes.
Yep.
Strong science. That's what that is.
The lure, I don't know. You can give them leg transplants, apparently.
You could give them if we could talk them into it.
Yeah. But as we all know, as soon as you take someone's legs off, though, they can't speak.
Of course, they lose the ability to speak
Yeah.
once they get legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
So
found
yeah,
that.
which they never explained that.
Because as
I
people,
mean-
as people, I'm sure know about us now. We don't have any legs.
Yeah.
We're just floating torsos.
Which is the only reason that we can talk at all.
Yep.
Is because we're floating torsos. We float in brine
Yeah.
all day.
Like, blew my mind's too vague about their actual mermaid lore. I think
Yeah.
you know, we see her kind of go through this transformation and stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, beyond that, we're not too sure what happens with her.
No.
Dunno.
No. We could get them a good friend. Maybe that's the lesson from.
Actually, that's a good.
That's the lesson from Blew My Mind, is maybe it's good to have a friend
Yeah.
that you can open up to, and maybe then your mermaid problems won't seem so bad.
Yeah, because I don't think either of us are down for, mutilating a sentient being. I'm not really.
We tend
not
to
really
avoid
down with
that
it. Yeah.
path whenever it's not the only option. Violence is never really the best solution, I find. Especially not when it's
Take heed,
brutal.
Will Smith.
The what?
Take heed, Will Smith.
Indeed. Oh,
Violence.
topical.
Oh,
sort
look
of.
at me. Yeah.
It's not that topical.
That was
pretty far
that was
out
about a
from
month
it
ago
now.
at this stage now.
Yeah.
Violence is
that was
never the option. So let's. I don't know. Where can you find friends?
on the internet.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where you find. Let's get. I know what we'll do. We'll make all these mermaids Twitter accounts.
Brilliant. That can
Right,
that cannot backfire in any way.
We'll get them all on social media,
Oh.
primarily Twitter, because that's the worst one.
Yeah.
It's literally
If
the
anything
worst.
else, it'll just distract them. They'll be too busy arguing stupid points with people. So
Yeah, they'll be too busy trying to convince people that they're not white supremacists. That they won't have time to deal with us while we're fashioning a rowboat out of stones and hopefully paddling past them. So John, great. I'm gonna get on my phone now and make a bunch of mermaid Twitter accounts.
Sweet.
And you try and convince them that it's a good idea.
Oh yeah. Twitter's great, isn't it?
Yeah, they can connect with mermaids all over the world.
Do they want
All
to
the
connect with
different
mermaids
kinds of
or
mermaids?
other people? Or do they want to connect with mermaids or I was going to say normal people? Oh, I'm going to get
That's
cancelled.
the kind of thing they would say on Twitter,
Yeah.
and then say, "I'm not fascist.
Yep.
How dare you? Here's a source that proves I'm not."
I love
That
that.
is-
I love that. Like it's now canon in my head that mermaids are fascists.
mermaids are all fascists. Fuck those mermaids. Yeah, let's Twitter's exactly what they deserve.
Yeah.
Then John,
Fucking
put them on there,
cancel
and they can argue with all the other friggin' fascists on there. Oh, that was the sound of a boy in the distance.
Ooh.
Nice, and I mean buoy.
Oh,
as
yeah,
in,
buoy.
yeah, a buoy. Listen.
You have to say you have to say boy, but also like feel like you're going to throw up.
Yeah. So we'll get some Wi-Fi installed on the buoy, and then we'll get them all Twitter accounts. Will be fucking sweet. Right, good idea. So we are on Twitter. We are at 7day Apocalypse. That is at numeral 7 Day Apocalypse. You can email us on filmcast at thisweeksapocalypse.com. That's filmcast at thisweeksapocalypse.com. We also have a YouTube's that you can find with Googling. This Week's Apocalypse.
Like a mermaid.
YouTube.
Google
Google these mermaids will learn to do to reinforce their terribly misinformed points about race and speciesism, probably on Twitter. Good Lord, what have we done? Oh well, flubba lubba 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 lub. I guess we'll be back in a fortnight. Hopefully. Or so. Alright.